All right, let's just jump right in. We spend so much of our lives trying to guess what's coming next, right? From tomorrow's weather to what the stock market's going to do. But what if the biggest, most important events are the ones that are totally, completely unpredictable by their very nature? Today, we're going to unpack a huge idea that connects modern finance, ancient philosophy, and, believe it or not, a very surprising bird. It sounds like the start of a really weird joke, doesn't it? A massive financial crisis on one hand, and a discovery from centuries ago on the other. But the answer to this question actually reveals a fundamental flaw in how our brains are wired to see the world. And that flaw has a name: the black swan. So, a black swan, a term popularized by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, isn't just some random rare thing. No, it's very specific. It has three key ingredients. First, it's a total outlier. Nobody, and I mean nobody, sees it coming. Second, its impact is massive, absolutely game-changing. And third, and this is the tricky part, after it happens, everyone looks back and weaves a story that makes it seem like it was obvious all along. Okay, so why call it a black swan? Well, the name itself comes from a real historical shocker that perfectly demonstrates this whole problem. It's a story all about the danger of being a little too confident in what we think we know. I mean, really think about this. For more than 1,000 years, every single swan any European had ever seen or heard of was white. Every painting, every story, every piece of data they had confirmed this fact. It was as certain as the sun rising in the east. It was just true, based on overwhelming evidence, right? And then, bam, in a single moment, they saw something that shouldn't exist: a swan that was jet black. In that one instant, a single observation completely destroyed centuries of consistent, reliable evidence. You see, this discovery didn't just add a new bird to the biology books. It exposed a deep, deep crack in the very logic we use every day. So the kind of thinking that got shattered by that black swan has a formal name. It's called inductive reasoning. It's basically how we navigate the world. You know, we see a pattern. Every swan I've seen is white, or the sun has risen every day of my life, and we make a big leap to a general rule. All swans are white, or the sun will rise tomorrow. It's amplificative, which is just a fancy way of saying it creates new knowledge. Knowledge that, as we just saw, can be spectacularly wrong. Way before Taleb was writing about this, an 18th century philosopher named David Hume was absolutely obsessed with this problem, and this quote from him just nails it. He's saying our belief that the future is going to be like the past isn't based on some brilliant logic. It's based on habit, or as he puts it, custom. And this all builds up to what philosophers call Hume's problem of induction. Seriously, Hume was the first person to just systematically take apart our confidence in this kind of thinking, and his argument was so powerful, so watertight, that it's still a huge debate today. Okay, to really get this, look at the difference here. On the left, you've got deductive reasoning. It's rock solid. If your starting points are true, the conclusion is guaranteed to be true. Like, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, so Socrates is mortal. See? It doesn't really create anything new. It just unpacks what's already there. But on the right, you have induction. That's where the magic happens. It creates new ideas. But, and this is the huge but, it's not truth-preserving. Just because the sun has always risen doesn't logically prove it will tomorrow. And that right there is Hume's knockout punch of a question. It's so simple, but it's devastating. We all just assume it. We literally bet our lives on it every time we get in a car or eat food. But can you actually prove it? Can you demonstrate logically that the fundamental rules of the universe won't just change at midnight tonight? And here's the trap Hume pointed out. It's a perfect circle. Why do we trust induction? Well, because it's always worked before. And why do we believe it will work in the future? Because it worked in the past. You see what's happening? We're using induction to justify our faith in induction. It's like saying, I'm trustworthy because I say I am. Ultimately, it's an act of faith, not logic. So right now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a cool little brain teaser for philosophy class, but what does this have to do with my actual life? Well, it turns out that ignoring Hume's problem has a massive, and I mean massive, real-world cost, especially in the world of finance and risk. And this isn't some forgotten idea that just got dusted off. You can trace this exact problem like a thread, running through the centuries. From Hume first laying it all out, to major thinkers like Bertrand Russell wrestling with it, all the way up to Nassim Taleb taking this old philosophical problem and applying it directly to our complex modern world. Yeah, Taleb really doesn't pull any punches. He basically says that all these incredibly complex financial models are built on a house of cards, the faulty assumption that the future is just going to be a variation of the past. These models are great at handling the small, predictable ups and downs, but they completely fall apart when a true black swan appears, something that has literally no precedent. And here are some classic examples. Before these things happened, they were almost unimaginable. After they happened, oh, suddenly we have a million experts explaining why they were absolutely inevitable. And notice that little side note about the pandemic? It's super interesting. Taleb calls it a white swan because, unlike a true black swan, scientists and experts had been warning us for years that a global pandemic wasn't a question of if, but when. It was predictable, even if we chose to ignore it. Okay, so if we accept Hume's point that we can't ever really trust the past to predict the future, and we know for a fact that these black swan events happen, what are we supposed to do? Just throw our hands up in the air? Well, not exactly. The answer isn't about getting better at predicting. It's about adopting a whole different mindset. This right here is the big shift. Instead of trying to predict the exact date and time of the next earthquake, which is basically impossible, you build your house to withstand an earthquake whenever it might happen. You move away from prediction, which is incredibly brittle, and you move toward preparation, which aims for something Taleb calls robustness. And that is the key takeaway. Robustness is all about building things, your finances, your business, even your personal life, to be able to take a punch. It means having enough of a buffer, enough flexibility, that when the unexpected negative black swan hits, you're still standing. And just as important, it means you're in a position to catch the wave of a positive black swan, like the sudden invention of the internet. So we'll leave you with this question to chew on, because it doesn't just apply to global markets. It applies to our careers, our relationships, our health. Realizing the future is fundamentally a mystery isn't something to be afraid of. Instead, it's a challenge, a call to action to build a stronger, more resilient life. So what's one thing you could do, starting today, to make your world a little more robust to the unexpected?